Everybody plug in.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the February 20th board meeting for Lodi Unified.
It's way over here. Okay, there we go. I can hear my echo, so it must be good. All right. Pledge of Allegiance. Join me, please. If we face the flag, salute, and pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll report on items out of closed session. Placement of non-public school students. Mr. Nava motion, Mr. Heberly seconded, and the board approved the placement of 2017-18 non-public school students numbers 41, 53, 82, 83, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, and 91 by the following votes: 7 ayes, 0 noes. The board also, in conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. Mr. Nava motion, Mr. Talkins seconded, and the board voted to reject claim number 544803 by the following vote: 7-0. And those are the only items out of closed session. Dr. Walsh, I believe I left those others in there. We have to check the other agendas.
Oh.
We can check it later. It's no big deal right now. Oh, you grabbed them. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Tonight, before we get started, I want to talk about something that has impacted the entire education community, and that was the shooting in Parkland, Florida. It kind of brings to light the fact that this type of thing can happen anywhere at any time. And I guarantee you that none of the schools that this has happened at ever thought this was going to happen to them. You never do. You never think that this might happen in my little community here in Lodi. But the fact is, as this reminds us, it can happen at any time. I want to take just a moment. I'm going to call for a moment of silence. And we can reflect on what happened. So if you please join me. Thank you. At this time, our first item, I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues here on the board for comments about this tragedy. Is there anybody who would like to?
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Nava.
Very difficult times, and it's happened before, and just like Mr. Nini said, it can't happen anywhere. Hopefully it doesn't happen in any other areas again. I had the privilege to take my 10-year-old granddaughter to the elementary school this morning. Of course, this has been since the 14th that this happened, so today, as I was driving, I asked her, do you feel safe going to school? She says, yes, I do. And I says, why do you feel safe? He says, well, Papa, when you go to the school, there's cameras all over the place. And when everybody's in the school building, the doors are locked, nobody can get in. And my teacher in the classroom locks the door and nobody can get out. So, and then we have drills that we have them periodically, then we have fire drills that we go outside in the back of the school. So I felt very comfortable from a 10-year-old coming and telling me this in regards to, and this is Manuel Silva Elementary School in North Stockton. Of course, it happens to the other schools that I've gone through, and I know the situation there because I live one close to Oakwood where it's all fenced in. I can't get in. I can't even get in with my thing. I have to wave at somebody down there, and then they'll come over you and all that. So that's the safety part. I want to compliment Dr. Washer for being proactive in sending that directive to all the administrators in our school district. I thought it was well written, and I opened one of those directives that you recommend by the National Association of School Psychologists. Excellent for all teachers. The title is Talking to Children About Violence, Tips for Parents and Teachers at All Levels. And I recommend that for all teachers to get on the internet and read that. It has to do with the National Association of School Psychologists. Very good. And again, hopefully that nothing like that at Douglas High School happens here in Lodi Unified or any school in the nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nava.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I probably as an ex-teacher, I always think of the two most important outcomes in education are academic excellence and social development, teaching kids to be good citizens. But with the recent things that's happened in Florida and other places, it's impossible to accomplish these things without a safe school environment. And I just want to reassure the public that this board gets that, and we will continue to be vigilant with school safety.
Thank you, Mr. McDaniel. Mr. Heberly.
Thank you. I spent my career in public safety, and it is a real thing, and I think we're on a good path in our district where we're trying to take sequential steps in securing our campuses, point of contact, fencing, cameras, the whole bit. And the continued drills. And when these things happen, our local law enforcement will learn the details, and they will incorporate that into their training, so when they do come to our schools, they will share it with us. People will act and people will do how they were trained, and our students did participate in one lockdown drill at a school, and I was really impressed how well the kids, they took it seriously. They did exactly what they were supposed to do, and so that was nice. That has to continue. We need to continue to train. It's not like a big flash in the pan because something bad happened. It needs to be an ongoing thing. So we do need to train, we need to learn, and we need to adjust our strategies to minimize any danger. So as your heart goes out to what's going on in Florida and other parts of the country, and you hope and pray it doesn't happen here, the best you can do is be prepared as best you can. And one of the things that I heard from one of the students that was at the school in Florida, how the kids, once they were kind of seeking refuge in their classroom, how they kind of just came together. And they were actually supporting each other, because not everybody reacts the same way. And it was nice that through that training, there's that human side of it too. You have to, follow what your procedures are and support each other. So I see more of that coming. We take it very seriously. Don't ever think we don't. So we will continue to keep things safe.
Thank you, Mr. Everly. Ms. Castle?
I just want to briefly say that everyone in this room this evening, I know what we all share together is a very overwhelming sense of sadness that this tragedy has happened again. I wanted you to know, in case you're not aware of this, that the 7 of us on the Board of Education, we are all parents, and we are also, all of us are grandparents, which means that we're not exactly young, but and I also wanted to share with you that all of us, and I will speak for my colleagues as well, I know all of us together, a lot of why we sought election on this board was that we have our own children, our own grandchildren, and we care so much about the community's children as well. And I want you to know that. The school safety is a very high priority. It always has been. And it certainly will be at a time like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Castle. Okay, close this out with a few comments. Dr. Washer,
Yes.
I want to thank you and your leadership in this district for the way you've been taking it. You saw this issue long ago and have been working on it for some time with the security of our campuses, which is part of this. But you've also worked with getting Jerry Adams in here to help us with the other part of it, and that is that there's got to be 3 parts to this. You got to secure that campus. You got to know what to do if something happens. And Mr. Heverly showed some old military thing there about you got to know what to do when it happens. You got to be ready for it. You can't stop and think about it at that time. So that's the second part. And then the third part is, and I talked to Mr. Freitas about this earlier this week, and I love this idea, is we got to work on that part for the counseling to stop this. The bullying, he brought it up at the last meeting as well. That's one of the things that we've got to work on. So that's the 3 areas that we've got to continue to work on. I want to tell you something. Our elementary schools, we have a fire drill once a month. There hasn't been a death by a fire in a California school since 1954. And yet we have fire drills every month. Since 1990, I'm sorry, it's not just California, that's the nation. There hasn't been a death from a school fire. Since 1990 in this nation, there's been 176 fatal shootings at schools. So it seems to me like it might be time to look at that and maybe change things around. Where we're at right now with these school shootings, I'd like to do away with the weapons if it was up to me, but it's not. And I'm going to tell you that that's not going to happen. So that means that this is our situation. This is what we're going to have to live in. So we've got to do everything that we can. So I urge you to continue to look at those procedures, and I know you will. And like I said, I appreciate everything you've done on that. Are there any comments from the audience? Okay. Seeing none, we're going to move along to the next agenda item. Well, this one's a lot more pleasant. A lot happier. Yeah. I tell you, I mean, honestly, just on a personal note, I struggled with this last week. It was tough. Not this one, the NorCal Science Festival. All right. Ms. Kotowski.
I agree with you. It's going to be a hard act to follow what you guys are just talking about with this event that happened on February the 3rd. Our third annual NorCal Science Festival was well received and a pleasure to attend. I would like to ask Sandy Starr and Casey to come up and talk a little bit about the festival and introduce the children. And I think we have a little something special for you to view also.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Ms. Kotowski, and thank you for having us here tonight. That is a somber act to follow, but I think it also showcases the importance of community and coming together for events such as this that kind of gives students an outlet and an outreach into something that's tangible and healthy in our world. So with that, if we can, I'd like to have Aaron come up and introduce his video and show that, and then we'll.
I'd like to say, George, good evening, Council. Thank you for the conversation about the event in Florida has been highlighted by a lot of yelling and high emotion. It's nice to hear people talking level-headedly again, maybe because we're just far away from the place itself, but it's good to hear calm people talk about it. On a positive note, this is my video I made upon request from Mrs. Starr about the NorCal Science Festival. I enjoyed the event quite a lot. It's my second year attending it, and that's all I have to say.
The NorCal Science and Technology Festival is a great event where the community can come and interact with hands-on science, and educators and our community can interact back with the world of our Lodi area. Some of the new things we had at this year's festival included a fly tying room in our watershed management area where we had information on the sandhill cranes and baby salmon, all kinds of fun things in this room here. We also had Jim Elliott Robotics, and they are a nationally ranked team. We're excited to have them here with us this year. We were excited to have our sponsors, Magnitude.io, come back a second year to help us out with the festival. And this year they got even bigger and better with the high altitude balloon launch. We had students actually design some of the payload and help with the launch itself as it went into the high atmosphere, and they tracked it until it came down a distance a ways.
The NorCal Science Festival is very special in that it brings together families and pretty much allows them to enjoy science in various different ways. From circuits to that of makey-makey, we get to see how basic little tools or other components can be manufactured to be constructed into something that's pretty amazing in science.
The three pens, because you can be creative and do whatever comes up to your mind.
The reason I love science is because of the unlimited possibilities that it presents people, and like you can take it in many different directions, and there's still so much more to learn.
It's awesome, and there's so many different opportunities and so many different things that you can do with science. It's not just fit for one person. It's like, you know, fits all.
Science is so vast and important. I love that science brings people together and encourages teamwork in the face of adversity.
fantastic.
It was very impressive to me too, because I know that Aaron is very talented, and I said, hey, you're good at this stuff, can you do a video? And he did this all on his own with his own equipment and everything, so.
We've got more work for him.
Yeah, I know, right? Very impressive.
It's not done yet, too.
Oh, yes, I kind of pushed him to show it tonight, even though he wanted to add a few more edits, so it's in draft form still.
Well, I think that'll definitely find its way on our webpage and our Facebook page.
Thank you. So I'll go ahead and read off some of the names of everyone. And overall, to start off, we did have Bezos Foundation, the Amazon family Bezos Foundation, help us out this year a little bit extra. They actually sent a representative down, and we did a kickoff in October, which really joined together our high schools. And we had students that hadn't met even within Tokay and Lodi, and they came together, and we did a little bit of leadership between what's mission, what's vision, what are SMART goals, what are we going to do here to create this festival. And through that day, it was really amazing to watch. We went through kind of all the personality things and meshing them together, and came back after a little break and said, okay, well now it's the important part of you guys get to choose what you want to do and how to form your committees. And within less than an hour, they had figured out who would be their co-chairs between two high schools, mitigated everything throughout, and I mean, it was amazing. I don't think any of us adults in the room could have done the same thing, so it was very impressive. And they continued to organize everything throughout that process and check in with us throughout for support, but it was really a student-led effort. So with that, I'll call up Matthew Hashimoto, who was one of our leaders in this and has been a part of it from the first year. We have some Lodi High students too. Oh, Jack, I don't think Jack is here. Nicholas, Hillary, I'll read them anyway. Jack Atwall, Nicholas Hillary. Some of them weren't able to make it. We had soccer banquets and all kinds of things going on. So we have who we can tonight. John Sasaki. Jonathan Juarez. Ethan Bradley. Hamad, so wasn't able to make it. Ruby Dillon. Melissa Garcia. Jasmine Gill. Jessica Cunningham, Ravni Rajasansi, Leon Ocampo, Shumesa Mosen, Karen Bundia, Arindira Terrazas, and then we've got our Lodi High crew. Jay Soleil,
Alex Oseguera, who's not here, Abby Hildenbrand, Qual Rafiq, Friendly Espino, Megan Kim, Allison Oseguera.
Thank you so much.
Well, Sandra, Casey, thank you guys. Comments from the board?
Oh, of course.
I knew you. This is our science representative here.
Well, I said it out there in the audience, but I'll say it in public. Thank you both very much for being the lead coordinators on this. What an amazing event. A lot of times when I've been there, every one of them, and it's just the variety that you have there. It's astounding. But I always try to pull myself away and kind of just look at the crowd. And there were two things that really struck me. One was the number of student volunteers that you had that were totally engaged in students teaching the kids. And the young kids, including two of my older grandkids, just had a blast. And it went past having fun. Once they would kind of go through the whole thing, and then they'd go back to one, and then take their time to go to another one, And that's when they really, you could really see that the high school students helping those younger kids. That's pretty powerful in itself. So just to sum it up, I can't say enough how wonderful it was. Thank you again, all of you, students and teachers, for letting the community enjoy this. Thank you so much. Ditto.
Thank you, Mr. Everett, and Mr. Freitas.
No.
I got you. All right. Ms. Castle.
Oh, I think it's so impressive that was this the first time that you brought in this big time support early on? The Amazon and...
Well, they actually were part of the start. The Bezos Foundation is kind of what kicked us off, and we're kind of well known up there from being a really big festival and a supportive community, and so they were willing to give us a little extra support in the third year to keep it going with the students. So,
that's fantastic. I love the collaboration between the two high schools, all the student involvement, and I think most importantly is like lighting that spark among all the children that attend for science is fun. Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you, Ms. Castle. Guys, I've heard nothing but great things about it. I haven't heard Dr. Washer made some cupcakes or something for you guys, is that?
Yes, I still haven't gotten one, 2 years. I'll run it around next time.
Threw you under the bus. So anyway, thank you guys so much for everything you do. I really appreciate it. Dr. Washer, would it be appropriate for us to get a letter, a thank you letter off to the sponsors of this?
Of course.
From the board? We do appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot. And thank all the volunteers, all of you, thank you so much.
And we did have a ton of other teachers at Tokay High School and other teachers in the district too that helped out a ton that day. So they gave up it was a long day and they were troopers. So thanks to everyone.
Superintendent's report. Dr. Washer.
Thank you. Just once again, thank you to our staff and teachers for the Science Day. It really was a lot of fun. What struck me the most, again, this is my second time attending, was the buzz about, are they going to do this again next year? And that I kept hearing that over and over from kids and adults wanting to come back and not wanting it to end. So thank you so much for bringing this yet again. Moving on to the arts, just want to remind you that we have our first try at a district art show for 7th through 12th grade. The weekend of April 7th and 8th at Elkhorn Golf Club. I want to give a special thanks to the Lodi High art teachers who are helping us and giving us suggestions along the way, noticing that we're forgetting this and that. So thank you very much to the art teachers for keeping us on track. I'm not quite sure how it's going to turn out, but we're hoping for a good event and at least learn from it and do something even bigger and better next year. Poetry contest is coming up. It's coming to a close, so we'll be bringing you those announcements fairly soon. We have the lead poet in the area helping to judge the finalists for the high school division this year. As you may remember, we had a professor from Sac State help us for several years. Getting it down to the final few on those high schools can get pretty tough. So I called in some professionals to help out, and that's worked out very well. So looking forward to that. Just a couple notes on safety. Just want to let you know that we will have other conversations about school safety. We have 2 more agenda items preparing for you. The next board meeting will have an item that will focus on questions that have come up about CPR and first aid training for school staff, as well as drills, expectations for safety drills, and those kinds of issues. And then the following meeting, we will actually have a staff report, a more formal presentation for you on what we're doing for safety, what our safety plans look like, what are the state requirements, what are things that we're doing. So you'll have other opportunities to have a discussion, ask questions, and give your suggestions and comments about school safety. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Washer. Moving right along, budget report for Mr. Khan.
Thank you, President Neely.
Mr. Khan, sorry to interrupt. Also, if any of the students need to leave for homework or something, feel free to stay, feel free to leave, whatever works for you. Thank you, sorry.
Thank you, President Neely. Hold on a second.
We don't want to stay. Did you see a vacuum?
Class, you guys don't want to stay for the budget?
I'll take it personally.
Well, that thinned down the room.
Sorry.
There's a group outside waiting.
Mr. Khan, I'm sure that was nothing personal.
I hope that's okay.
Yeah. That's a good call.
Thank you, Mr. Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer. Thank you for letting me continually drone on about our encroachment. I know it's a very thrilling topic. However, as we get into budget, it is starting to get very important. I believe we discussed encroachment with this board at the study session of October 24th, 2017. This is an update post first interim. Our encroachment levels are at levels that we must address immediately. Continuation of the trends that you can see in these graphs will cause cuts to programs at some point in the near future. Certainly we have abundant reserves, but this kind of money will eat through that quickly. I think probably the two things I would note on this PDF are on the unrestricted side, a general leveling of revenue. That's the green line on your left at the top. But more importantly, the expenditure line's flatlined as well. So in our unrestricted accounts, we're earning the same amount of money, but we're spending the same amount of money. The excess surplus in unrestricted is roughly 45 million. It's in stark contrast to the restricted accounts that we operate. You have an upward sloping line that is now better than half of all of our unrestricted expenditures. Revenue is not keeping pace. You can see a widening gap between the red and the green lines. And the blue line, which represents our operating deficit, is just increasing at first interim by almost $3 million. As we discussed at the October 24th meeting, the bulk of this contribution or encroachment is our special ed accounts. Certainly that spending to some extent is necessary, but I think solutions are necessary to prevent it from getting out of hand. Dr. Washer and her team are now working on other approaches, the multi-tiered system of support being one. I'm hopeful that will deliver results, even if it just to flatline the expenditures at some point. So I'd be happy to take any questions.
Board members, any questions?
I just did not see any rainbows in this at all. So this is not a real positive here.
Well, if there are a rainbow, it's that the district is in some respects well healed right now, but as I mentioned earlier, these are big numbers. We're approaching $50 million in deficit in our restricted accounts, and at some point that's going to matter. I would also say a silver lining is the work done on multi-tiered systems of support. That may serve to reduce the number of identifications at a lower age while simultaneously offering better intervention and support.
I have a question. on the restricted, the 48+ million deficit, operating deficit, do you happen to know how much of that is the special ed program?
I do. It's virtually all of it. For instance, we run 2 big special ed resources. The state special ed resources, a 6,500 series. Spending in that area is $45 million alone on revenue of $16 million. And then our federal accounts are much smaller, but there's still a $5 million deficit there as well.
Thank you.
Dr. Washer, there's nothing we can do about special ed spending, I guess, huh?
Well, we're hopeful that we'll be able to change our approach so that we catch kids at an intervention mode earlier so that they don't reach that point where they need special ed services. That's the whole idea behind response to intervention. It will take time, so it's not like we can turn things around overnight, but that will give us, I think, a better approach to helping kids and kind of keeping these costs contained.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. This doesn't take into account the recent federal discussion of federal budget cuts for education either.
No, sir, this is only as a first interim,
Yeah.
which was presented to board in November.
Secretary DeVos, I think, asked for a 10% reduction in her department's budget on this.
What I've read is it's primarily the titles, that which won't help us either. That's restricted spending.
Right.
But
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Khan. Why don't you come back when you have better news? All right. Comments from the public? Yes, ma'am.
We would just ask that, again, with those numbers and wanting to reduce the numbers, as Dr. Washer said, catch them before they get into special ed. K2 still has no, excuse me, white flowering trees, love them. No special ed, we're catching them later. So if we have an intervention at K2 that's adopted, that's put into place, that would be helpful.
Okay. Michelle, do you think that some of these that put on special ed are more behavioral problems rather than ability, or have you?
I would be venturing a guess. Anecdotally, I've seen both, that some are behavior, some are, you know, they're not being catched soon enough because there's, I, as an example, had a little girl in my classroom who should, in my opinion, been in an SDC classroom in 2nd grade, but the process is making sure she's in the least restrictive environment. Right. So from kindergarten and 1st grade, she was in a pull-out program, but still not able to catch up, and we had to wait for that discrepancy gap to get wider, which sometimes some kids you can tell right away, but to qualify, then you have to give them the intervention to try, because maybe it, you know, there's no crystal ball that you magically know exactly what's perfect for every student, so you have to give them the opportunity for that least restrictive environment. But, you know, sometimes, yeah, you can tell. Other times you're struggling as a teacher for, how do I meet the needs of this child? Is it dyslexia? Is it ED? Is it, there are so many things out there that, you know, special ed teachers really do have the expertise in that and would probably be a better, give you a better answer than I am tonight.
All right, thank you, Michelle. All right, thank you, Mr. Khan. Moving on, action items. Oh, I'm sorry, comments from the public. Do we have any cards? No? Any comments from the public? Okay. Action items, consent agenda A. Board members, is there anything that you would like to see pulled from the agenda? Okay. Public, is there any items you would like to see pulled from the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve routine agenda A.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any, move on to that. Student vote?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And calling for the board vote. Waiting on Mr. Connection. Passes 7-0. No slack here. All right, consent agenda B, student discipline cases.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Heavily motion, Mr. Connect said second. Students don't vote on this. Consent agenda B, calling for the board vote. Consent agenda B passes 7-0. Other action items. Item OA1, OAI1, Resolution 2018-12, calling for full and fair funding for California. Let me explain something about this resolution. We've been talking for quite some time now, and I'm not going to read this whole resolution. It's on the website. I'm going to pick out some points here. I'm going to tell you about it. The resolution is about finally getting some fair funding in California. It's about bringing California up to the national average in per student funding by the year 2020. And then by the year 2025, bringing the state funding up to the average of the top 10 states in the nation, which is where we ought to be. If we were to get average by 2020, it would probably mean somewhere around $30 million or more to Lodi Unified. And if we got to the top 10, it would double that. And we wouldn't have to talk about encroachment so much. California School Board Association is pushing right now to make the public aware of the severe funding problems that we have here in California. This resolution calls for the state legislation to look at where we're at. One part would say California ranks 45th nationally in the percentage of taxable income spent on education, 45th. 41st in per pupil funding, 45th in pupil teacher ratios, and 48th in pupil staff ratios. And it's all because of funding. It has been suggested as early as 2007 that we bring California up to the national average. 2010, it was done again. I'm sorry, 2016, we did it again. It would mean to us roughly $1,961 per student in additional funding. So, before I ask for anything on the board, for the call for the vote on this, anything the board would like to say? Comments from the public?
Mr. Chairman, I think this is a great resolution that Lodi Unified Board of Education supports this concept. I move to approve.
Second. Thank you, Mr. Nava. Thank you, Mr. Talkin. Any further discussion? Okay, let's call for the student vote.
Aye.
Aye. Calling for the board vote. Resolution passes 7-0. Okay, the next thing up, approval, item OAI2, approval of revised governance handbook. This is pretty much the same handbook that I brought to you last time. There was one minor change, that's why we put in other action items. I'm not going to tell you what it is, hopefully you found it. Actually, it was a move in our priorities. Okay, not going to go over it again because we did that last time. Board discussion?
Mr. President.
Sorry.
We put together this governance book several years ago. And revisiting it, it's quite a very important resource. It says what we stand for and how we want to do it. And I'd like to thank you personally for the hard work that you took updating this. Obviously, this was a lot of work, and it was something that was long overdue, and I very much appreciate that. And with that being said, I would move to approve.
Second. And we've got a second. Any public discussion? Any further board discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second. Calling for a student vote? Aye. Aye. Okay, calling for the board vote. Motion passes 7-0. Item OAI3, Resolution 2018-08, Measure U Implementation Plan. Mr. Khan.
Thank you, President Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer. Before you is the implementation plan that was presented again to the board at the study session of January 30th, 2018. It is a conceptual design of projects that will at some point occur at our school sites. It also provides our design teams of the future the information necessary to begin designing these projects. Approval of this plan does not translate into immediate projects, nor does it grant administration the authority to just proceed with projects. Every project will require contractual obligations with design teams and contractors, and then generally with the contractors' standard bid processes as well, which include bid documents and board resolutions. So all this is the approval of the plan as presented on January 30th. Be happy to answer any questions.
Board, do you have any questions pertaining to the presentation itself? We're going to try to get on the new rule of order that we just passed. And so, please have any questions about the presentation itself. Anything in the book?
I have a comment and a question.
We're coming back to board comments. That's our new order.
Oh.
Yeah. We're going to try it.
Okay.
We're going to make this happen. All right.
Mr. President.
Sir.
I can ask a question? Is that what we're...
You can ask a question about the presentation. About what is the book itself. If you want to debate it, then you have to wait.
No, I don't want to debate it.
Go ahead.
I have a question. So, this is a plan, this is a guideline and a roadmap of what the sites need, correct?
Correct.
As we go through this, I would assume that things and conditions and whatever can change. Can you explain to me if there's any built-in flexibility in this, and if so, how does that work?
There is quite a bit in all the prices that are listed in these reports. They are course estimations, but they include a 10% contingency plan. They also include 5.5% per year escalation costs, which is in essence construction inflation. That 5.5% would be calculated to the midpoint of the project's estimated construction. So in the entire project list, in the level 1 series of phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, it's a total of $281 million worth of projects, 10% contingency represents roughly $28 million. I will certainly not guarantee, but I will say that a good portion of our projects are, for instance, safety items, door locks, fire alarms. There are parking lot projects. There are sunshades. In business services opinion, these are not typically the types of projects that would generate the need to access that 10% contingency. Our hope is to see that occur and then roll those monies down into future projects as well.
Okay, thank you. I'll reserve comment for later.
Ms. Cass, I want to pause it. This is the way that we're going to try to do it, okay, is that gives a report, then we ask questions about just the report. No comments yet from us, okay? Then it goes to public comment, then it comes back to the board for a motion and a second. If it gets a motion and a second, then the board debates the item and then the board votes.
I have a long question.
Got it. You go for it.
Okay. Last night, I meant to bring in our big, wonderful, fat binder that is, if you haven't seen the binder, it's very impressive. It's all of the Measure U projects that are, yes, if we hit on every one of these, you would end up with this huge document. And because I'm very bummed out by the tragedy in Florida, as a form of therapy, actually, I went through every page in that binder looking at all the different safety measures that are included in Measure U. And I'm happy to report that every school in our district, I think almost every school, is getting what I take to be probably the best locks out there now for classrooms. Yes, I see Mr. Sun, yeah, and I'm so happy to know that. And there's over 1,200 locks, and I added up the dollars, $800,000, and I was very happy to see that. And also, as Mr. Khan already mentioned, there's many other safety enhancements in this report. And here's my question, getting to my question. Today I did a school visit, and it was very interesting because I just happened to come into the school at a time when the outstanding principal was dealing with a real safety issue that he had identified in his school, that he had called M&O concerning this issue, and they had gotten on it right away. And it was not a difficult issue to fix, but it needed to be fixed, and I don't want to elaborate what it was. But what it brought to my mind, and here's my question, is in the Measure U funds, and you already have partly answered this, but my question is very specific. As we go about assuring the community that we do have done the most to make our schools safe, if we discover things that aren't in the plan at all, just something that pops up that needs to be taken care of, does it allow for the flexibility to, and this is the specific part, to draw money away from a plan that is deemed not as important in terms of safety, and the funds used for a very critical safety issue? Can that be done?
Well, in a word, yes. However, whatever that potential project might be must actually meet the terms and indenture of Measure U. So the board couldn't decide that, say, building a guard tower somewhere is maybe a guard tower is a safety thing. I'm looking for a ridiculous example, but the board couldn't decide to build a garage to house expensive cars because it's not a part of Measure U. It must legally meet the test of what the voters voted for. But other than that, all of this implementation plan is a plan. The phases within this level 1 section of the facilities master plan are just plans. So they can occur as planned in the plan. They can be altered either by board or by administration suggesting that maybe there's a better time to start this one and replace it with this one. So it is a flexible plan.
Okay, and Mr. Khan, would you remind me, I know you've told the board this, but I would think that we'll pass this in a moment. And you will give us reports then on what, for instance, what's first up, what's first out of the chute and is going to happen. Yes, just how it rolls out.
Okay. We will certainly apprise the board of every move, both in scheduled board meetings, but also via the internet, through our project management software, and through our website as well. But we believe right now we have direction to proceed with M&O. We are in the process of hiring a criteria architect to design the criteria for a metal building for the M&O project. We expect shortly to begin bringing projects forth for Lodi High School and Tokay. But that's as far as we've thought right now. Once we have the plan approved, we will begin actually calculating dollar amounts and looking at projects and organizing them and bringing them before the board.
Is it possible to fast track the locks?
Certainly, if the board, if I have that direction, we can bring those projects forward almost immediately.
Because I believe they all are in phase one, as if I read it correctly.
I don't recall if all of them are in phase one, but they are, as you noted, they're not a substantial part of the entire plan right now. They canvass across many sites, so it's a project that could begin and be ongoing for quite some time. And I was remiss, if there's any question about the actual plan, design and a plan, Mr. Kissel did join us again tonight, so I'd like to thank him for making the trip down from Sacramento, and he's available for any questions as well as Mr. Sun, who's all the way in the back row.
Yes. And thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kessel. Any other questions from the board? Okay, public comment? Hey, Michelle.
First, I want to say thank you to Mr. Sun and Mr. Khan and LPA representatives that set up a meeting for those of us who had more questions and needed clarification. We appreciate that. I know that there was some confusion on the rollout of level 1, level 2, level 3, bucket 1, 2, 3, phase 1, 2, 3. And we appreciate the walkthrough on that and appreciate the description and the explanations about how those projects will roll out and the changes that could happen. We also, as a membership, would like to remind the board with any changes that come to make sure that we're being transparent on all school sites with our stakeholders there and the public that is tied to those projects. And we do appreciate the ideas that were put forward with the, and I don't know if I'm stealing thunder, sorry, the online Measure U, that people will be able to go on and look at projects as they're going and what's being funded. So we think that that does create a sense of transparency for part of that project, but please keep those stakeholders tied to, as Ms. Castle says, there is a possible change, and make sure that we have buy-in and information from all parties. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Any other comment? Okay, bring it back to the board for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve this Measure U, what is it?
Implementation plan.
Resolution 1808.
Second. Thank you, Ms. Nava. Thank you, Mr. Talkin. Any more board debate or questions on it?
Yes. Okay, so Mr. Neely.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so I'll just tell you what I want to do, and then you can tell me if we can do this or how I go about getting it accomplished. Okay, it's no more than $1 million. It's like around $800,000 to do those locks, and Mr. Khan has said that that's something that could be fast-tracked. How do I go about getting a consensus and having that happen?
Okay, I think that all we're going to need in this case is a consensus, okay, because this is during the discussion time. It doesn't affect the motion because the motion still stands as it is. We're just talking about a priority within that, so I don't think we have to go anyplace there. I'll go along with that.
One question, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
We have some locks like that already on, have we, Mr. Khan?
Very few,
Very
Mr.
few.
Nava.
Any problems? Maybe Mr. Sun will know. Are there any problems with these locks?
Well,
It could be a minor problem. I don't know. I know sometimes teachers get, change is not good because they have to get up to the knob and open the door, and because nobody else can do it.
Yeah. Right now, most of our doors are, able to lock it from inside, and some of it has to be locked from outside. But all safety procedure is mandated with all of the schools and the teachers to lock the door as a precaution. So that's our procedure right now. But we will be replacing those door locks that cannot be locked from inside. That with a new standard of door locks. So the new standard door locks for elementary school is just a push button from inside to lock the door. And then middle and high school, they will have to lock the door with a key from inside rather than go outside to lock the door.
Okay, my question now, Mr. Sun, if there's an emergency in the classroom, it's gonna take some time to open those locks with a key at the high school level, and the teacher has to run over there and push the button on the lock to get them open from the inside. Is that correct?
For high school, right now, there's some school already have those push button locks. The locks with the key. So there's always need a key to lock from inside. And for the new standard, the one we're gonna replacing with is that the key we don't have to go outside to lock the door. But it still have to be locked with a key.
Yeah, but from the inside.
They can still get out.
They can still get out, yes.
Yes, I understand they can
Yeah,
get out.
I'm sorry. They don't have to use a key to, unlock, get out. So basically.
I'm sorry, I really understand this. That inside lock locks it from the outside.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's
In other
correct.
words, you can exit that just by turning the knob and out.
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay, that's
That's
all I
correct.
know, I'm safe.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the mean to lock from inside, so outside people cannot
Right.
open the door.
Exactly.
But inside people still can just push the lock.
Thank you, that's all I want to hear.
All right, sorry.
Other questions?
Fairland would never allow that.
How much are these locks a piece?
$140.
Installed, I think they're budgeted at 500, so. Budgeted, remember we have a budget.
Does anybody want to go to business with me on this?
Right.
Is that 80,000?
Can we bid on this, John?
But if we come in under, that's more money to roll.
That's right, $449.
We had a situation where a set of keys was lost on a campus, and we had to, more than once, we had to rekey the entire campus at substantial cost. Mr. Sun?
We budgeted for over $800,000 to do all of the classroom doors.
That's correct.
So, but we aren't going to have one key open every lock in the district, so that if that key was lost, we'd have to.
No, by site.
There'll be site masters.
That would be still have a master key used.
We lost the last master key, it was 8 years ago, and it was like $10,000 back then, I think. What, or more? How much more?
Depending on the size of the site, a high
It
school.
was at McNair that we lost it.
No, it was, yeah, well, it could be
Bear Creek.
Bear Creek also,
Yeah.
multiple times Bear Creek.
How much?
I think that one was, what, 18, 20,000?
$20,000 to $30,000, depends on, yeah.
How many doors?
Fancy $500 locks are much more harder to
Rekey?
rekey than the other ones.
Well, once they're in, you can just change the pins out rather than having to rekey or change the locks on every single door. So once they're in, they can be a little bit cheaper.
Access control. All right, cards. No further questions? All right,
No, I was gonna not use board time for that.
Okay.
I have kind of a list of things that, because I have different perspectives of things
You don't,
about safety. I'll deal with him.
you'll deal with that later, okay.
Just for something to look at.
Well, let's talk real quickly about Ms. Castle's recommendation. Is anybody else?
I'm for it.
Okay, that's two. Do I have one more?
Yeah.
Okay, got four. All right, so there you go.
We have direction. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any more board debate?
Yes,
Yes?
Mr. President.
Yes.
I got my answer for the flexibility of the plan and all that, which is exactly what I was hoping. You and I talked a long time. I'm sorry I've been here for so long, but I just wanted to get a good feel. I don't have a problem with the plans, level 1, level 2, level 3. My concern is that how do we go about then as a board saying, well, you know, at this site, looking at it a little bit further, we would like to include something more at that site. How does that happen? At what point do we have that discussion to see if there is a consensus to increase or decrease or somehow change the level of that site's plan?
Certainly it's a moving target, but the door locks are a good example of what we discussed earlier about contingency. I can't envision any scenario where any of that 10% contingency on the door locks will ever be accessed. They're just door locks. For the most part, we can probably install most of them in-house, which may reduce that $500 budget number. So both the contingency and what is not used of that budget rolls down. So the hope is to generate savings versus budget, so there is additional capital to expend on other projects. That said, there will be points in the build, for instance, Lodi High, Needham, maybe Tokay, maybe Elkhorn, where the projects are so big, so expansive, and so unknown. For instance, who knows what we're going to find once we remove that old building at Needham. There may be $1 million change order or worse. So as this capital builds, it depends on what point in the construction schedule we are. If we're in the middle of Lodi or middle of Needham, we're probably not going to recommend that we start another project with shall we say, excess capital at that time. But as we get closer to those really complicated projects, then yeah, there'd be a point at which the comfort level is high, and we're going to recommend that we begin maybe past the level 1 projects, that being phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, and maybe we begin to dip down into level 2. Or maybe there's some other, like Mrs. Castle was mentioning, maybe there's something else the board would like to discuss as an add-on. So.
Right, and that's why I'm asking, at what point do we know that, okay, school X is next on the rollout? And then when that comes to us, is that the time for us to say, you know, I think if we do just this little part, we might as well do the bigger chunks that there's some of it that's in level 2s. Let's bring those level 2s up to level 1 and make it one big thing. Granted, you know, hopefully there'll be that money there to do that. But my question is when do we be able to give you that input and guidance or see if it flows?
When the money is available. And again, when we're not working on Lodi or Needham or maybe the 2 other projects that I mentioned. One thing we've also not included in this discussion yet is bond eligibility. So if or when Prop 51 takes effect and the state begins to sell facility use bonds, for instance, Lodi High School is eligible for between $7 and $12 million worth of state eligibility. So that capital could come our way. I think Lodi Middle School, don't quote me, but I believe it was $4 million in eligibility. We had approximately half of our sites eligible for between $1 and $4 million. So if that were to happen sooner than later, my belief is the board could have that discussion very quickly. But we all know that it's going to take the state passing a bond and selling it first. So in order to make that a viable possibility, what the board will in all likelihood see in the next month or so is permission to proceed on a series of about 10 to 11 projects for the design phase of them. Only the design phase, because all those projects represent potential eligibility money. Doesn't mean we have to start them immediately, but if that's additive to what's necessary, it's just more capital. The more capital we have, and the more we're sure we're out of sort of the change order window, then it makes it a lot more comfortable to make a decision to proceed on either an additional project or even dipping down below the phase 3 into the level 2 projects as well. So excess contingency, not having to use escalation, bond eligibility, and then outright savings versus budget. For instance, the door locks, if we can get them done on average cheaper than $500, that's extra money to be used on other projects as well.
And we're still waiting, when you say the eligibility, that's the existing state bond, we just need them to sell the bonds, to bring in the money, just.
Correct. No, well, we also have to have approved designs.
Yes, yeah.
So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Student vote?
Aye.
Aye. All right, calling for the board vote. What's that?
The question section was over, and then we were in the comment section.
No. We were in the comment section, that was his comments and questions. Did you have other comments?
Hold on.
Okay.
Those things down here if you do.
Just checking. Okay. Item OAI 6, Resolution 2018-13, the hiring of short-term classified employees. Mr. McKilligan.
We didn't vote. Did we vote?
No, 4 and 5.
Did we vote?
We didn't
Oh,
vote.
I am so
We
sorry.
didn't vote on
I had the page turned, excuse me.
three.
Number 4.
Oh, we just did, okay.
Yeah. Item OAI 4, 2018 California School Board Association CSBA Delegate Assembly Election. Dr. Washer.
Thank you, Mr. Neely. Members of the board, you have the opportunity to vote for up to 3 candidates, other school board members in other districts who are running for delegate assembly. There are 3 names there. 2 are from Manteca, 1 is from Lincoln. You can choose not to vote, or you can vote for 1, 2, or 3.
And that's vote as a board, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I read all the resumes and all these people that are, I think they're pretty good qualified. Most of them had the same things that are needed for our schools and state problems. So I'm for it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nava. Public comment? Okay, seeing none, bring it back to the board. Need a motion?
I move that we approve this resolution,
Mr. Nava.
2018 School Board Association member.
Second. Okay, now, board debate.
Mr. President, did I read somewhere it has to be a roll call vote?
I didn't read that.
Oh.
Is that the case, Dr. Washer?
Oh, I do not know the answer to that.
It says vote
Our-
for 3. It says vote for
You can
3.
vote for up to 3, but does it have to be a roll call?
Oh, it says right there.
Does it?
Elect delegates by roll call voting process.
Our system
Does it roll call?
usually counts for that, but if you feel more comfortable not doing it that way, you
Oh,
can.
The quicker the better.
I think our system's fine on this.
I think it is fine, okay.
I'll give a quick comment on this. I've worked with two of the people on there, Kathy Howe and Jenny Van Pol. They're both excellent people and good board, good members for the delegate assembly.
Does students vote on this one?
We're going to let them vote.
Yes, they can.
Okay. All right, so any other comment? Seeing none. Calling for the student vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Calling for the board vote.
And this is for all 3, correct?
For all 3. And passes 7-0. Okay. Now, OAI 5, approval of 2016-17 development fee report. Mr. Khan.
Thank you, President Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer. Annually and also every 5 years, the district must publish a development fee report in order to take advantage of any increases in the state allocations board developer fee increase. Recently, for the 2016 year, the SAB increased level 1 developer fees from approximately $3.30, originally $3.36, adjusted $3.39 to $3.48. The SAB actually is allowed, if they wish, to raise developer fees every 2 years on even number years. So this is the 2016 year. Happy to take any questions if you like.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Any questions of Mr. Khan on the report? Seeing none. Public comment? Seeing none.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve this 2016-17 development fee annual report.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. Second. Thank you, Mr. Talkin. Board debate.
Question, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
I see that it changed, okay, that would be mid-fiscal year, not mid-calendar year. Or vice versa. How could we change it again and increase it?
In order to increase the fees, the board would have to, that would have to be a board approved vote, but are you asking about how can SAB increase it, or?
How can an agency increase their developer fees on the developer? Are we hamstrung by statute, or can we just, we go, hey, we don't think 348 is enough, we want to go to 4. We can't just arbitrarily.
No, the maximum level 1 fee that this board may charge developers is $3.48 a square foot, or I think 56 cents on commercial property.
How do we jump levels to a different?
There has to be a pressing need. I don't have all those bullet points in front of me, but.
I had a conversation previously, and there are certain points you have to hit, and I was just curious if we hit any of them, because we can't just arbitrarily go, yeah, we'd like that.
Well, we can charge level 1 fees because we are building, modernizing. We also, at one point at Seabeds, we were up 300 and some students, so we were growing at that point. However, we're not impacted at most of our sites to the level that we need immediate assistance in terms of portables and that type of thing. So I don't think level 2s are available, and level 3s, nobody can charge right now.
And you would, as a district, have to petition that and show proof before they were allowed to have.
Well, you'd have to have the study showing that your growth was such that.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
Mr. Conlon,
Yes,
where
sir.
is this money held at? Where is it shown on our financials?
Fund 25.
Fund 25, so it's not part of our restricted or unrestricted?
It's completely restricted. It's not part of our Fund 01 at all.
It's not part of our budget that we look at?
No, no.
Okay. All right. And so this stopped as of June 30th, 17. Has there been a lot of activity since with the...
Better than during the Great Recession. The district took in $3.1 million in the 16-17 year. We are budgeting less than that going forward, $2.5 million, but there are apartments being built in the North Stockton area. There are some houses in the Lodi area. The Holman area of Stockton is I think 104 units are planned. So there is building.
Okay. And do we see more growth coming to North Stockton?
At this point, while there's growth in Lodi, for instance, in the Costco area, there are apartment complexes. Our understanding is that a good portion of them are a senior community, so we don't expect them to generate any ADA. And another wide swath of those projects down there are high rent projects as well, typically not a huge generator of ADA as well. Whereas in the Murata complex, across from the Rayleighs in Murata Lane, those are affordable income housing, and there are quite a lot of them.
Okay. Where would those students go? I mean, they're in the area near by Davis, I think, huh?
Davis, from Westwood over to Davis, Mosier, and Ansel Adams.
Are those schools going to be able to handle that? Okay. That may be a discussion we want to have in the not too distant future about how this area is growing and what we're going to do with it. But I don't have any other questions. Anybody have any more? Okay. Are we squared away over here now? All right. All right, let's call for the student vote.
Thank you.
Aye. All right, calling for the board vote. Passes 7-0. Now, item OAI6, Resolution 2018-13, the hiring of short-term classified employees. Mr. McKellar.
Mr. President, this is the resolution that allows us to hire short-term employees over the summer in the technology department.
Okay, thank you, sir. Questions about that sterling report from Mr. McKellar? In-depth report.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
On the resolution, it says that the board will certify the ending date of the short-term employees. How do we certify that?
It's on the back. August 31st, 2018.
Uh-huh.
It will be done by then.
I printed on 2 sides and didn't look at the
You missed some?
Yeah, and I mean, I totally understand short-term employees, you know, but I just wanted to make sure that we were doing what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve this short-term classified employee.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. Second? Thank you. Public comment? Questions? Seeing none, bringing it back for board debate. Any further debate? Seeing none, calling for a student vote.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Calling for the board vote. Passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Personnel matters, Mr. Killigan.
Mr. Mr. President, routine personnel matters are presented for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Looking for a motion?
I move that we approve certified matter, certificated and classified personnel matter.
Second.
Thank you.
I want to be.
We got a second down here.
You should put the motion.
It's hard to be.
All right.
You're not allowed in that one.
Yeah, that's the first I've heard that.
Okay. Public comment, questions from the board? None. Students don't vote on this. Calling for the board vote. There we go. Passes 7-0. Communications comments from student representative. Who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
All right. Thank you, Melissa.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, and Dr. Washers. My name is Melissa Mbamfo, co-ISP president for McNair High School, and I'll be presenting the report tonight.
Melissa, could you pull that microphone a little bit closer to you?
Closer? Okay.
Mr. Heatherly can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Okay, so last week, our wing crew hosted an interactive orientation for over 400 middle schoolers at Murata, and that was the first time that our wing crew has done it, and the purpose of that was to start incoming freshmen early on becoming more accustomed to the high school setting as 8th graders. And in addition to that, wing crew also held a fundraiser at a popular local ice cream shop near McNair where a lot of our high schoolers go to just hang out. It's called Dream Ice Cream, and that was a great turnout. And the reason they had that fundraiser was so that they could make enough funds to buy supplies for their activities at orientation and such. And our sports teams for the winter season had their senior nights earlier this month, wrestling, boys and girls basketball, and boys and girls soccer. Student government, our annual talent show, McNair's Finest was a success. It was full of great performers like dancers, singers, pianists, and it was a really fun show. And our second Spirit Week of the year was to celebrate Valentine's Day. We called it our Valentine's Rally. And it was enjoyed by many students because it formed a fun, friendly competition to see whether the underclassmen or the upperclassmen had the most spirit. And a lot of our students enjoyed the ideas. Our days were a night in versus a night out where underclassmen dressed formal, upperclassmen dressed in pajamas. Another day was musician versus movie stars, and then the other was pink versus red, where our underclassmen come dressed in all pink, and then our upperclassmen come dressed in all red. And performances, we actually had a presentation from an organization called Action Sports Athletes, and it was an anti-bullying campaign. It was full of BMX riders, and they actually did a stunt over Mr. Dawson, where they flew over Mr. Dawson. I don't know how to explain it, but it was really funny to watch, seeing our own principal be a part of a stunt, because it was kind of scary too. And I want to recognize 3 students, 2 seniors, 1 junior. One of our seniors, Angel Lopez, committed to Dominican University to continue his athletic career in soccer, and he's actually the first athlete at our school to do it so far. And for wrestling, Fatino Moala and Taya Basped placed in their weight class at the Sac Joaquin Section Masters. Tino Moala placed 3rd and Taya Basped placed 2nd. And upcoming activities and events, we have a Peach Fuzz Boys Volleyball Tournament coming up. And at our school, we have a lot of boys who come to student government and they ask about putting on the boys volleyball tournament that we have every year, because a lot of them enjoy the sport of volleyball, but we actually don't have an official boys volleyball team at our school. So this is something that a lot of us are looking forward to, because it's where the boys play and the girls coach. And lastly, we'll be looking forward to our multicultural assembly, where we'll embrace different cultures from all over the world. This will be our first year doing that. Last year we were supposed to, but there were some complications. But this year there will be an assembly for it and a mini carnival where our ethnic clubs like Polynesian Club and Korean Pop Club can host a booth with games, foreign foods, and more. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa, for that excellent report. Jonathan Henry from Tokay High. Welcome to the board meeting. Is this your first time at the board meeting?
Yeah.
Come back and see us sometime.
Yeah. Hopefully next year when I'm running for ASB.
All right.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Henry. I am junior class president at Tokay High School. Good evening, Dr. Washer, President, members of the board. And I will be giving the school report tonight. School activities going on. 8th grade parent night is coming up on February 21st. It is for incoming 9th graders and to show them the clubs and classes we offer at Tokay. Central Valley Regional Science Bowl at Tokay is going to be held on February 24th. This is something Tokay has done very well in past years, and Ron Head really knows. Student government activities coming up is Kindness Week is this week and next week at Tokay High School. This involves putting sticky notes on students' lockers with kind messages, sending kind notes to students and teachers, and to raise awareness. We have a blood drive coming up this Friday for the Red Cross. Performances and presentations. The LUSD High School Band Concert is going to be held at McNair this Tuesday. February 27th. For sports, boys and girls, wrestling won T-Cals and are moving on to sections. And boys soccer won the T-Cal championships and went undefeated in league. Upcoming events is the WASC accreditation site visit on Sunday, February 25th through Wednesday, February 28th. And another upcoming event is the Boys versus Girls Rally held at Tokay on March 5th, and our Spirit Week that week, as well as the Mr. Tokay pageant, which is a male kind of beauty pageant that the school is going to bring back, and it is sometime in April, but the date is to be determined.
Okay, Jonathan, thank you. When was that orientation for freshmen?
It is on, this is tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night?
Yes.
Okay, well, I probably won't make that. Okay, well, thank you very much, I appreciate it. All right, comments from employee group representatives. Seeing, oh.
You're just a little slow.
We thank you for your words about our family, brothers and sisters in Florida tonight. We appreciate those kind words and the moment of silence. Safety has come up before this board and at the study session, and I just want to reassure the public and reassure the board that teachers take the drills very seriously. There's, I can't think of one teacher who doesn't take even the practice drills as something very serious and very sensitive. Teachers deal with the practice drills in different ways based on the age of the child and the developmental. We have, it's amazing, you watch some of the fire drills and our autistic kids are prepared with their little headphones on and, you know, following in their little line. It's amazing. Teachers take it responsibly so that they really are teaching the students so that it becomes automatic what to do, whether the teacher is there or not. I do agree that it's not fun to do active shooter drills, and I remember doing the first one personally, and it was, you know, while I was going through the credentialing program, there was an incident in Stockton that was very traumatic. And I was in the credential program with a fellow colleague who was on that playground at the time of the shooting. And to hear, even as a grown-up, how it affected somebody many years later, it's a very serious topic. Teachers do have ideas and suggestions on improvements on some of those drills, so I do welcome, you know, the invitation for teachers on campuses to solicit it as to their ideas of how could we improve this, do you see flaws in the system. We also are underway with our transfer process under the second posting, and is about to close, so lots of teachers switching jobs. We also want to thank the personnel department for, well, the numerous dates for interviewing both new and special ed teachers prior to the end of the school year for the eligibility pool, and welcome that process to hopefully get some really good candidates early on and compete with some of our other districts. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Michelle. Any other comments? Comments from board members? Anybody? Go ahead.
I just wanted to comment to Melissa and Jonathan. Thank you for being here. And Melissa, I heard you say that, was this the first time that Link Crew reached out to Murata?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. So the 8th graders that will be coming in as freshmen, that was, and your Link Crew people met them. Is that what it was?
Yeah, so at the orientation, they welcome them in the big gym, and they do some activities to like get them more comfortable in the high school setting, and then they end up taking them on a tour around the entire campus so that they know where each and every classroom is, where the library is, etc.
Oh, wonderful. That's so nice to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. And Jonathan, the Kindness Week. I'm a real fan of these. All this kindness. I think we can use all of that that anyone can generate. So I'm glad you're doing that. And best of luck with so you're going to be running for office then.
Yes.
Yeah, best of luck to you.
Thank you, Ms. Gass.
Okay. Michelle mentioned something a while ago, but it's kind of brought back to my mind something I think is important. I think it's pretty important for site administrators to listen to their staff, the teachers, the people with the crossing guards about their ideas about school safety. They're the ones that are on the front line all the time. When I ride by Creekside School, I talk to the crossing guard. So, I would encourage admin to be very welcoming in those comments and to seek out those comments, because they're going to have some good ideas that we can use. So, think about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knaxton. Nope. Okay. Well, I'll be real quick about mine. At our next board meeting, March 6th, I will be calling in from Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Yes, there is really a Tahlequah, Oklahoma, capital of the Cherokee Nation, where my family is from. So Mr. Knack said you've got the reins on that day.
I will let you down.
And that's all I've got. Further comments? You couldn't. Let me tell you. Superintendent, any other comments?
No further comments.
Okay, reports. Continuing on with our reports, we see summer school. Ms. Katowski. Make yourself some water.
Oh, I'm fine. I'm worried about Michelle.
Is that Michelle doing all that?
That's Michelle doing all
Yes.
that coffee.
Threatening to fall over after.
Turn the colors. Good evening, President Neely, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. Jose Maciel and I are here tonight to give you a short presentation on summer school. Actually, we changed it up a little bit this time. We did an executive summary, and that way maybe we could shorten the presentation. If you have questions on anything that's presented, we can address that. So I am going to turn it over to Jose to give the executive summary of summer school since 2013-14 to 17.
President Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer, I'd like to share with you this evening our summer school program and the efforts made to address summer learning in the district and highlight some of these efforts. And I'd like to start with 2013-14 school year. So at this time, the Lodi Unified School Board approved a summer learning program after an absence of approximately 5 years in the district. And so immediately after your vote, I was tasked with the assignment to design, coordinate, and implement a summer school program. And so the first year, what we did is we implemented a credit recovery program. We had approximately 3 months to hire our teachers, advertise summer school, and recruit students. And so, our efforts led to an approximate 1,155 students enrolled in our summer school program that first year, and it was hosted at Bear Creek High and Tokay High School. The following year, what we did is we expanded our budget and increased our course offerings to accommodate the higher student demand that we had from summer school. And so we took our lessons learned from the previous year, and we came to the conclusion that we had a greater demand for summer school than actual courses that we offered in 2014. So in 2015, we expanded that by approximately 10 more sections and different courses. And in addition to that, we also offered credit advancement and an elective credit, and that was something that we didn't offer the previous year. So that created for a greater number of students enrolling in our summer school. And so for 2016, the numbers stayed consistent. And for 2017, we noticed a slight decrease, and in reviewing what could have potentially happened in our district to the reduced number of students that enrolled in summer school, we started looking at credit recovery opportunities that we offer during the regular school year. And I'd like to draw your attention to the APEX program, and that is a credit recovery program that we currently offer at our comprehensive high schools and Lincoln Tech for students that are in need of credit recovery or on track for, or need to get on track for graduation. And so there's different opportunities that we offer throughout the school year for credit recovery. And so we felt that the fact that students are now enrolling during the school year, that perhaps lessened the demand for summer school. And so that is just one factor, one theory as to why our numbers decreased slightly. But we've only had summer school now for 4 years, and we're looking at the trends, things that we can learn from previous years, and we're always evolving one year to the next, always looking at ways to improve our courses or modify the course offerings that we're doing to align with student demand and what our counselors are and principals are giving us as feedback as to what we can do during the summer to expand summer learning and provide students with the opportunity for credit recovery to eventually graduate. And so that's a summary of what we've done in our efforts for our summer school program.
Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, Jose, the APEX program at Lincoln Tech, what is the enrollment of those recovery students, or credit recovery students?
Okay, and so if you're looking at numbers in total, we purchased approximately 300 licenses for credit recovery in the district. And to my knowledge, Lincoln Tech, all the schools are allocated a certain number of seats in these credit recovery courses, which is an online credit recovery program. And so my estimation is we have approximately, I can't speak directly to Lincoln Tech, but as a district, I can share with you that we have approximately 300 or so students enrolled in credit recovery programs at this time.
Okay, and another question. We have a credit recovery in summer school, and then we have this APEX program.
Correct.
To me, personally, as a former teacher, the APEX is better because there's going to be some learning on the online, and you have to have some response and feedback. Not that you're not going to have it at the summer school, but the summer school is a short period of time. What is the time that you have on this credit recovery?
Okay, I can go into details. Okay. So you're right. Our summer school is an accelerated program. One semester course is 12 days, 66 hours. And so one summer school day is equivalent to 7.5 days of a regular school year.
Wow, that just poses a big problem with summer school for me for any credit recovery. I question, just personally, the learning factor on it.
Right.
Just to give you an example of, I'm a former coach and athletic director, that we have to have a certain GPA to qualify to participate in athletics. And we had some people coming in from the high school that needed credit recovery, needed grades and that type of thing, enrolled in summer school. I had these two students that had, in the math class, I'm just going to tell you that, all F's, they wouldn't do anything. There's nothing they could do. You know, I talked to the teachers for the coaches, and they don't do anything. So they went to summer school. When they got to summer school, the two athletes got A's out of those classes in a short period of time. I just kind of question that. I don't know. I know that fell through the cracks there, because how did they learn that much math in that amount of time with getting the F's and not understanding the concepts of mathematics in the regular school system?
Mr. Nava, I'd like to probably provide some perspective to that, because that's something that we've also talked about in our administrative meetings. One thing to consider during our summer school is students are only enrolled in one course. During the regular school year, they're enrolled in multiple sections, maybe up to 6 sometimes. And so they're dedicated to one course, one section, one teacher, and they do multiple strategies to learn the content, not only apply it, but also do group activities, hands-on activities. And so there's different modalities of learning that takes place in the summer school setting. It is very intense, but it's also the second time that the student has seen the curriculum. And so oftentimes they can capture a larger volume of content and comprehend it perhaps a second time around. And so there's various factors to why students may not pass during the regular school year and pass during summer school. But one of the big factors that we look at is the student is only taking one course and that's all they're focused on. And maybe that on its own can be a significant factor to why they're passing at a higher percentage rate than they would during the regular school year.
Okay, what is the class size of a summer school recovery class?
It varies depending on the subject matter that the student is.
The same math class, for example.
Math class, let's say high school math. That's probably the high school math course that's in greatest demand. The average size for that class is 35 to 40 students in a summer
school.
Yes.
To me, it's difficult. You're talking about one period, 7 days of summer school.
Yeah, it's 5.5 hours per day.
I'm glad we're offering it, and hopefully that everything will be okay. And it's been a long time since I've taught school, so maybe things have changed.
Thank you, Ms. Null. Next.
I'm really glad that we have a summer school program. The credit recovery is probably way back in the days, that was the reason kids went to summer school, was because they screwed up somewhere along the line, and now we got to make it up. But I also would like to see that we have electives and other enrichment type things. I think summer school is a great opportunity for kids, because honestly, most kids don't really have much to do during the summer. They really don't. When I taught summer school, my thing was, hey, you're going to learn how to work with this computer. We done by noon, and you can go watch, the Smurfs or whatever, and your buddies that's all they're doing is watching TV. And then by the time you get out of summer school, you can do stuff. But I do think that you have to have an experienced teacher. You can't have probably a first, second, or third year teacher. You need to have somebody who's really familiar with their curriculum. You need to have somebody that has pretty good classroom control and can keep people on task. And I do know that they will learn in that short amount of time. Because of all the things that you said, you get great explanation of why they can be successful. Good teachers make a difference, and it's a program that we definitely need to support, I think. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm a huge fan of this, like my colleagues have talked about. I'm very proud that the board is doing this. and thank you for your presentation. Is there a limiting factor as to what we make available in summer school?
There's several factors as to what ultimately is determined or offered during the summer school. Teachers is a big factor, availability of teachers to teach the content and teach the number of sections that may be required. The other factor can potentially be student demand. Sometimes we may not get enough student interest to justify offering a course selection in summer school.
So when you say that, did we turn away students last year for summer school?
Yes, we did.
And how many students was that?
I cannot mention it off the top of my head how many. I can share with you our process with recruiting students for summer school. There's a number of students that actually express interest, apply, and they meet all the criteria before the deadline. And first day of summer school, they never show up. And so we have to hire teachers in advance for that. And so we backfill sections on that first day of summer school. And we backfill until we fill the section up. And so oftentimes we have a lot of students that show up on that first day of summer school that never enrolled into summer school. And so a large percentage of those students are the ones that are actually turned away.
Mr. Freitas, that's a good question. Under summer 2017 up there, it says there was a decrease, and you show a decrease over there in your numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we still turn students away?
I can't say for certain how many students we turned away, but we may have turned away students in advancement courses such as government econ, and that's for credit advancement. And so we only offer one section of that course offering, and so we may have a number of more students requesting to take that section, but we just don't have the teachers to offer that section.
Okay,
so we need more teachers to teach more sections.
That would be, yes.
And now this number, this 1261, that means that we had approximately 630 in the first section of summer school and then 631 in the second session?
Not necessarily. It can vary. And oftentimes those are the numbers of students that enrolled in summer school that we actually had a seat available for them, not necessarily the number of students that earn credit in summer school.
Okay, but we ran a 12-day program, which is our first section, and then we run a second 12-day program.
Correct.
So we didn't have 1,200 in each of those programs. We had 1,200 in those two programs combined.
Yes, that's a possibility.
So,
and that's for both Stockton Summer School and Lodi Summer School.
So 300 students were thereabouts were in Stockton and about 300 in Lodi when you really talk about going at any one time. So I guess what my point is this is a great program. And for 30,000 students to really only have 600 spaces available and maybe 300 available in Lodi and 300 in Stockton, I don't know if we're serving the population enough. And if it's not getting enough teachers to teach these classes, I would be in favor of the board doing whatever it takes to make it attractive to get more teachers in these courses. But I don't think you're trying to mislead these numbers with saying that there's 1,200 out there. But it really comes down to there's about 300 students that get to go out of 30,000 in Lodi and 300 students that get to go in Stockton. And we need to expand this. We have to make more because I don't think you're just turning away students in the government econ. I think you're turning away them in the math and the English courses also, which are very, very important and are the starting points for these students in addition to credit recovery. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Mr. Freitas. Next, if you had a comment?
No, that's fine, yeah. Okay, yeah, okay.
Thank you. I too was going to ask about the class sizes and the turning away of students because I had heard we've done that.
Yeah.
Which it's really hard because they're the ones that are coming to us and saying, hey, I want to take advantage of your program. So run it by me. We'll just try government and econ. Somebody is either going to take that for credit recovery or they're going to take that for the enrichment and credit advancement. they can do both, right? Or one of
Government econ is only for credit advancement.
That's only for credit. Oh, that's right. That was one of the red
That's a
ones.
senior
Yes.
course, yes.
Yeah, there were, I think, 5. So that's great. So let's say you have 50 kids want to sign up for it. Is then your next sequence to say, aha, we've got, 2 sections of 25. Is that too small of a class to make it go? Or what is your cutoff point? Because if I want to take government econ and I'm above that one section, let's say of 35 kids, and I'm number 36, they say, sorry, 35 is the cap. Well, that was the only class I wanted. I didn't get it this year. What is the minimum class size that you'll make it go?
12. That's been our number in the past.
Okay.
12 students.
And that's good to know, because what that tells me is that then we're shutting out fewer kids if that's the minimum number. And that's, I like that, that's good. My other question was, what's the percentage of credit recovery versus credit advancement? Roughly percentage-wise.
85-15.
Okay. And one of the things that Mr. Freitas alluded to is that I was kind of thinking about is, well, how is this marketed? How is this advertised? Because really, if you think about it, even the one that was read, second column, art, that would be a good one. Yeah, I'm a visual guy. If they take that art class, then that frees up them where they could potentially now take a CTE course, which takes 2 periods. Otherwise, a lot of times kids get really locked in their schedule and they really can't, I want to take another math class or I want to take another science class. Well, that locks out all that. Whereas if they could take these courses that are the required ones, then that just totally opens up their schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is kind of a marketing tool too. How do we let kids know what's available?
Good question. We start advertising summer school in January, so that happened already. We meet with counselors and they introduce the concept of summer school to their students when they meet with their student groups per grade level. Students that are in need of credit recovery are introduced the concept of summer school as a viable option for them to free their schedule up for the following school year or take a course for elective or advancement or credit recovery, depending on what the student need is. In addition to that, we also advertise our summer school course offerings online. We have it at our district webpage, and some schools take the liberty and offer it at their own individual school webpage.
Okay, because I think the marketing, the benefits of it is probably a really key thing for the programs. Thank you.
Ms. Kessler? No, that question was asked.
I have sort of random scattered questions, but about the teachers, do we know why there's a shortage? Like, have they told you why? And I see Mr. Hunter, you nodding. Can you tell us why?
Well, I'll let Jose.
Okay, yeah.
There's various reasons why I can't put a finger on what, but the obvious one's probably teachers enjoy summer and their summer break. And it's hard to battle and win summer school over their teachers break. And so some of the feedback that I've received from teachers is, I can work one semester, but I can't do the second. And so I've been flexible and have allowed that to happen where teachers co-teach and one teaches a semester, the other one teaches the second semester. And so, but outside of that, everybody comes with various different reasons as to their availability. I've done some outreaching myself. In 2015, we actually, this was something that we talked about at our administrative meeting, the fact that this was a concern for me because we didn't have enough science teachers to teach summer school. And we had a demand for science. And so we considered going outside the district and trying to recruit teachers. And that wasn't very successful either, as there's a extensive hiring process for that. And so we ended up hiring somebody and they never showed up on the first day. And so we were shorthanded. And so there was no commitment to the district. And so that wasn't a viable option for us. But I'm open to suggestions and recommendations as to what we can potentially do to recruit and attract teachers to work summer school.
Mr. Neely, can Mr. Hunt speak to that?
Sure.
I can wait till the public comments, but I can speak now.
John, you're one of us, buddy.
Oh, thank you. John Hunt, counselor at Tokyo High School and summer school counselor for some time. When I started in the district as a teacher in 1986, I taught summer school. After teaching in La Cañada in Southern California, I came down and started teaching in Lodi. And back then, the pay scale was slightly different than now. I know there's a formula now. Summer school pay is one way. When I started, it was you figured you work in 2/3 of a day, so it was more of almost a daily, a per diem, a 2/3 per diem. So the pay was a little higher. So I just know from personal experience there may be some teachers out there. There's a tipping point, where they will commit to a summer or won't commit to a summer. That may or may not be one of the reasons. You could ask former teachers, but I know I taught summer school here. Even when I became a counselor, I kept them going for 10 years or so. So a lot of the questions are interesting, and I have comments on a lot of them. And so if anybody wants to talk to me sometime, I'd love to talk to you. I got all kinds of ideas about summer school. But since this guy took over, Jose, in my opinion, has done a phenomenal job. It's hitting a moving target, and Ken Seth used to be the master. I'd start off a summer school with 60 kids in my class on a roster, because 60 kids don't show up. 60 kids say they're going to show up, and you have 45 of them show up the first day. And then they say, I'm not going to put up with this for 5 hours, and then 10 of them don't come back. So if you shoot for 30 in a class, you're going to end up with 12 or 13. And so there's a science to summer school, and there's a mentality as a teacher that you go into it being a tad bit flexible, because you are trying to come up with an idea, and an ultimate goal of finishing with, somewhere north of 25 under 30 students. And so that may be different in U.S. history, where they tend to stick around and show up, versus high school math class where there's remediation involved. So it really is kind of a crazy thing you're trying to do. He's done a phenomenal job. I know as counselors, when we got on scheduled here starting a few weeks ago, we had the summer school forms in place. So a kid comes into my office, and if there's a credit recovery issue or an advancement, maybe a lot of times they're an Avid or C302 and they want to take world history, U.S. history ahead so they can clear a spot. So we have those conversations. We have the summer school form. Just because you give a kid a form, though, doesn't mean they're going to actually complete the class. So you know kind of how that goes. So for us, it's an exact science too. A lot of times I can't assume the kid's going to take the summer school class, so I schedule him in the class the following year, but I put a tab on his form because I know there's a chance he's going to fill out the form. So I just know that it's been, I've seen the hard work he's put in. I've been a counselor at the site when kids come in and we're trying to basically level things out and get kids in places. And there's different things you're working with, but we've always got a computer up. We can check the kid's record. We do the best we can. And for the most part, kids do end up, most of the time where they need to be. So, it's something that's always exciting every year. And honestly, if the kids do the work ahead of time, it does a good deal to improve their odds of getting where they need to go. Sometimes when classes are limited, just to show you talk about the government econ, if there's one section, like I'll have 5 of my students that are going to probably get into that section. Each of the counselors at Tokay, there's 4 of us, that's 20 from Tokay, 20 from Lodi. There's some kids from the other comprehensive high schools that factor in. And so if I've got 10 kids that want that spot, what we do is, besides putting the students in the class, there's a waiting list. And then he's going to take teacher interest. He's going to see if the waiting list is high enough. He does the number crunching on other sections over the one that we can't offer for sure. But it's up to, for those kids, bringing those forms back. So they've got to be on top of it. So sorry I ran on. That's it. Any other questions, you can talk to me later, or do you have a question?
No, but thank you, John.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, tend to go on a little bit.
Thank you.
I would like to also add that When you teach summer school, you get 2 weeks break. Because you go from the end of the school year, then you go into prepping for summer school, you teach it, and then you get 2 weeks off. So they're actually working more than anybody else. And so some teachers can't do that year after year. They need to have some time. It's kind of hard for them.
That's a very good point, yes. I just had one other quick question. Lisa, you mentioned that we purchased 300 credit recoveries, licenses.
So we have 300 licenses throughout the district. We've allocated them out to the high schools, and a student can enroll in a license for any of the topics or subjects that we have an agreement with. When they finish that course, another student can use that same license for a new course. So even though we have 300, we could service 1,200 kids as fast. It just depends on how fast they complete the course or how long it takes them. It's online and it's not for everybody, but they are being successful with it.
Oh, that's very good to know that we have that, and we obviously are having success with it in terms of them passing and so forth.
Correct. During the school year, and Jose will share some ideas of plans that we have for the future. We have teachers in the after-school credit recovery classroom, so the students come to the school, the classroom. There is a certificated teacher with them, helping them, whether or not they're an English teacher helping a math student, but somebody is there encouraging them and working through it, and it has really helped tremendously.
Oh, great idea. And Jose, John gave you a wonderful compliment. Thank you very, very much. We appreciate, and I too, when we were without this, we were in trouble. We had very few options for credit recovery. So I too am glad that it has returned, and thank you for your work on it.
Thank you, Ms. Gaddis. Mr. President. Sir. This is a great program, and my only complaint is that we just need to do more of it. And Mr. Hunt, I agree with everything you say. It's a great program, but the shame of it is, I would bet at Lodi High last summer you turned away 100, 200 students, and that was a student that could have finished the program, because we didn't have spaces for them. And that number 600. If we run that 30 are in a classroom, that's 20 teachers. So we run the number that 40 are in a classroom, which I think you do start with a lot of them with 40. That's 15 teachers. And we can't get 15 teachers in all of Lodi Unified to come in and do a section. And I love the idea of the split sections. No one says you got to do them both. And I think that's a great opportunity for the students too, that they get a fresh face. I mean, who wants to hear someone talk for 5 hours every single day for the entire summer? Not me. So, I like these ideas, but if instead of 15 teachers, 20 teachers, if we get 40 teachers and really open this thing up, that would just float my boat. So that's what I'm asking for.
Let me talk about that a second. My turn here. I think we should look at summer school in a whole new way. All right, it's that Google or the 10x thinking, Google 10x, where instead of trying to increase it a little bit, we look at how we can really increase this and what it can do for us. Lodi, I'm going to ask you in a moment about summer learning programs, because I think that ought to fall under there too. We've got kids in Title I schools that could use that time also to get prepared for the next year. We could do language classes. Let's talk about Apex just a second. I taught with Apex. I know that program. I don't know which version of it you got. You talk about just credit recovery. But if it's keeping up, if Apex is keeping up with some of the other programs that are out there, there's an unlimited number of classes that go with this, including AP classes, foreign language classes, just all kinds of things, electives that we could use with our kids. I don't know what we're paying, but for a license of over 500, I think we were paying less than $20,000 a year for 500. And we can't be paying that much. I mean, we ought to be able to increase those licenses to whatever that we want and then expand this entire program.
That is correct. Actually, what we're thinking of, because the license goes from the point of purchase to the next exact year. So we actually, in the last summer, we didn't use our Apex license during the summer school because students weren't enrolled in it. This year, we're going to try to enroll some students in our Apex, so we're using those licenses 12 months out of 12 months, and especially for our courses that maybe we don't get 12 kids to sign up for, but we have 10 kids that want to do it. And that's what, I'm going to turn it over to him.
And that's to Mr. Frieda's point. And so I will mention that we feel bad about turning kids away. Unfortunately, we may not have the resources to hold a classroom. And so we have been tossing ideas back and forth as to what can we do to capture these students, or at least provide them a service over the summer. And so we are turning to Apex and exploring how we can offer Apex during summer school. And so this would be an opportunity for students where we would provide a room with computers, and students can come in all needing different sections. They don't need a credential teacher for that specific section. It can be just as long as it's a credential teacher overseeing the content, but the teacher doesn't have to have a credential for that specific item or the course content. And so we can capture students that are needing multiple number of sections or whatever course title they may need. And so we may be able to accommodate students in that setting. And so we will be looking at exploring the opportunity to hire teachers and have a credit recovery program via Apex at our summer school sites for those students that can't log in or get into a course. They'll be able to log into their Apex course, and then they'll be able to continue their summer school learning. So that is something that we are exploring and something that I am committed to follow through on.
I strongly suggest that you expand your vision beyond Apex. Look at Apex, but gauge it against some of the other programs that are out there, some of the other vendors that are out there. We're on a year-to-year license with them, right? We can end that after a year, we can sign up with somebody new. So you need to take a look at that, because there is a great deal of difference in the offerings. I know one of the things that Apex did not used to have was the middle school and grade school. And there are other vendors out there that offer that as well. There's a lot of vendors who do classes assigned by testing, that put kids through a test on the computer and then assign remedial subjects on that to help them. This is something we can look at to really expand our participation in summer school. We also need to look at this as an opportunity to help our Title I kids. Now, this will be the second time that I've said that, no one else has caught this yet. The more time that we have those kids learning, the better off they are. If we can get them in a couple of weeks before school begins and give them a head start, you know, that's going to help out tremendously. So I think we should take a look at that. Yeah.
So Title I, I've been visiting Title I schools, just to leapfrog off what George is saying. We have been hiring the retired teachers to do the intensive intervention, the phonetics, and is it still called SIPS?
The Read 180 program?
No, for the K first grade, second grade.
Some schools may be doing that, but not district-wide.
Okay, because I saw another one today where it was the teacher that had, you know, she was retired, she had worked for us forever, and I saw her do this magical, she had 8 little kids, they were like probably first graders, and I never had phonics. And so I was listening to how she was approaching it, and it was fun, it was interactive. And what I've been hearing is that there are a fair number of our own retired teachers that love the hours, 9 to 12 kind of hours. We pay them well, and they're super. So I wonder if, bouncing off George's idea, if there isn't a ready supply of those types of teachers that would jump in and do that intensive intervention piece. Also, and I'm wondering, but this speaks to special ed, and I had heard of this before, and that is this testimony about if you can get those kids early on, and when they first start falling behind in reading, they don't get Read 180 until they're in 3rd grade.
Yeah.
So this is that K2 piece, that those kids fall behind that early on, and they are much more likely to be recommended for special ed. When in fact, if we have these real intensive phonics, whatever it's called, that I saw today, to catch them up so that they are on par with their fellow students, that there's much less likelihood of being identified or being sent to be tested to see if this special ed. I mean, this was just testimony from various people. I don't have any research to back it up, but it certainly sounded enticing.
Sure.
Mr. Khan, I just wanted to ask, how much money comes in for summer school?
This is a district-funded.
Zero.
Zero.
It's part of our LCFF, or LCAP.
Board decision.
That's one of the questions that I wanted to have answered. I kind of knew that, but there's a lot of things I don't know, and I wanted to be sure. Zero money for a program that is absolutely necessary. I sure hope the resolution we passed has some effect upon state governments.
Oh, let's hope so. Yeah. But, on a positive note, look, without even trying, you have 3 votes on the board saying double this program. And, come to us and tell us what you need to make this thing happen. And, money be darned, we want to make this thing happen. This is important to us, and we appreciate all you want to do, and we just want to do more. And on a lighthearted note, one section actually ends on the Tuesday, I believe, and the next session starts on a Wednesday, right? Because the student told me, hey, great, section's over, school's out. And I said, well, guess what, buddy? Set your alarm for tomorrow. So anyway, we very much appreciate all you do, and know that you have our support, okay?
Thank you. One final question for me. Apex, can that be accessed in the student's home, or do they need to go in school?
It could be accessed at home. That's how we did it the very first year. If I may, I'm sorry, I just jumped ahead of time. We allowed students to do that from home, and our finish or completion rate was very low because students think they're going to sign on, but the Smurfs come on TV, and so it's better. We found our completion rate really went way up when they came to school and there was a teacher there, somebody taking accountability and enforcing kind of the issue.
Well, that goes to adults too. Online learning is a big thing for universities because they get the money right up front and then the students fizzle off.
But there is as well, because you can do both. You can bring them to school, and then they can go home and finish some things up and come back the next day. So there's some real advantages to doing things that way. All right, any other questions on that? Make one comment. The board's obviously very interested in this subject. All right, and like Mr. Freda said, increasing this. And there's ways that we can probably do this cost effectively. It's a very important program, so I don't think we're done with the subject yet. I'd like to hear some more ideas. Put this back on maybe April time period, latter part of April. Is that possible?
Anything's possible.
You can have anything you want, just not everything.
Anything's possible, but you can't have it.
Okay, all right, then we're anything else? Thank you guys very much, great report. We appreciate all the work that you guys put in on this.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm trying to move along here to Miss Venica. You got about 4 minutes.
I can just say, any questions?
Anybody have any questions on the proposed board policy changes?
Okay. We're good. I do have one comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Bear Creek girls basketball team beat Modesto Christian today,
good.
tonight in their first playoff game.
Oh, great. Thank you for sharing that.
Awesome.
Best report of the night. Great job.
Matthew, boy.
All right, which brings us to board discussion. This is going to be the final item of the evening, so I just want to make sure that we start by 9:30. I don't have anything prepared for this discussion, except just some ideas and some things I've heard. We're going to talk real quickly about the administrators who are on the RBAC. And it's kind of different talking about money in the public like this, but this is not negotiations. So this is a public forum item. We have two different types of classes on the RBET right now, and those are our teachers and our administrators. Our teachers are represented by the Lodi Education Association. This year, we'll receive $7,500 in stipends, a $5,000 normal stipend and $2,500 for this first year because of the extra work. Our administrators don't receive anything except our appreciation. I've talked to some teachers about this as well, and they all agree that the administrators should receive something for this. We have 8 administrators on that panel. If we gave them a $5,000 stipend, it would only cost us $40,000. And let me tell you, there's a lot of work that goes in on the RBAC. Now, I understand that administrators are not represented by a bargaining group, and I understand that we don't have to pay them anything. But to me, a sense of fairness would be to give them something. And I'm looking for some support.
George, how did you arrive at 7,500 for teachers?
It's in the MOU.
Okay, MOU, I got it.
Yeah.
And then the $5,000 is just arbitrary?
That's just an arbitrary.
Yeah.
And we can match it, we can do whatever.
Right. And I think if there's 8 of them, 40 grand is not, but they do a lot of work, and they do extra work. Those administrators sometimes are at their school 24/7.
Mr. Dealer? My perspective on stipends is that I'm a firm believer in if you're going to do the work, you should get the pay. And I think stipends is a nice way of saying thank you, because we are acknowledging that you're doing extra work. I would say I think that's a fine idea, that $5,000 for administrators sounds reasonable in my mind.
Thank you, Ms. Everly. Ms. Castle?
Why not the same as the teachers?
I could be for that.
They are doing the same work, if not, they're doing the same work.
Mhm.
And I think I was shocked. I didn't know that they were not being compensated. And I think that's taking advantage of them. And yet they still are giving 100%.
So you go for 70, the same?
To be equitable.
Okay.
When do these administrators and teachers meet?
Often. It's been on a weekly basis, pretty much.
Every Thursday.
Every Thursday, yeah.
After school.
After school, yeah. Yeah. And you know what? You'd be proud of them if you saw what they did. They really put a lot of thought and a lot of work into this. They're very thorough. Teachers and administrators. And to see them working together, it's awesome.
Times have changed.
Yeah.
President, can we hear our superintendent's?
We can. I was waiting for all this rest of the I'll let you know the superintendent and I disagree on this subject.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I do not disagree that administrators are putting in a lot of work and deserve some sort of something to acknowledge that work. I do need to caution you that administrators do not have set hours. Unlike the teachers, there isn't a start time and a stop time per contract. Unlike what has been said at the podium by public speakers before, administrators do not get paid overtime. They are to be on the job, doing the job until the job is done. And as you know, administrators are supervising athletic events late into the evening. They're doing parent activities late in the evening. They're doing weekend activities for their school. There's a lot of time that might be considered extra or beyond the regular hours that administrators do because it's part of the job. My caution is that there would perhaps need to be made some sort of distinction as to why this would warrant this type of reward as opposed to something else that administrators do on a regular basis all the time. So if you could make that type of distinction, and it doesn't, there are other options other than a cash to an individual that could be some sort of thank you or appreciation from the board. Of course, you can do this. There's nothing to say that you can't do this. And I know that they would very much appreciate it. They volunteered without thinking that there would be compensation, so it's not like they're doing it for the money or for a stipend because that was not an issue ever brought up to them. So it's not as if that it isn't warranted, and you absolutely can if this is the way you want to go. I just ask that you try to make some sort of distinction as to why this work might be different than something else.
Okay, and let me comment on this. The superintendent and I have talked about this, and I want to make this point, is that I agree with you and on many of the things you said. But our superintendents expect the going to the games and doing all the other things. And they're paid based on some of those extra things. So high school principals are paid more because they're involved in more of that. What we've done with the RBEC is above and beyond anything that we would normally expect of our administrators. And for that reason, I think that we need to compensate them for it. And I would agree with you to say that it is for specifically being on the RBEC. We don't just give them, we actually stipulate that for a year.
How were the administrators?
Wait, Mr. Talkin, hold on a second, Mr. Talkin was waiting.
Mine's going to take a couple minutes.
Okay.
How were the administrators selected? Did they volunteer or were they appointed?
I asked for those who were interested, and from those who were interested, I then, per the MOU, submitted 8 names to Leah for their consideration, and they either give their approval or non-approval, and when they don't approve, then I give them different names until we get the right number that's been approved by Leah.
That's my question, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I realize that I'm an old timer, and it's been almost 20 years since I've been a school administrator, but I spent 28 years as a school administrator in 3 different programs. I served as a negotiator for 9 years. I served as the North Coast Section President for 4, Alignment and Classification President for 10, and 5 more on alignment and classification. There's a whole series of things that would occur. When the alarm went off at 2 in the morning, they called Daryl Tolkien. There were hundreds and hundreds of hours that I put in, not from 8 to 5. No, thousands and thousands of hours, and I never got a dime. Now, if you're going to give them money, I want to make a comeback.
Great job. I told you 24/7. My question on the 8 administrators. they're needed. Are they needed for the RBET?
Yes.
They're needed,
Yes.
right? So that's extra and beyond of what they're gonna, because we do need 8 of them. Now, if we didn't have them, what would happen?
There would be,
There would be
we
no
would not be meeting the MOU.
Okay, then we're accomplishing something that we set out to do and we approved it. I don't see why they shouldn't get what, you should make a comeback.
And it has nothing, well, it has indirectly things to do with their school, but not directly. I mean, this is, you're right, it's above and beyond. And the equitable part, if we're paying the teachers, they're an equal partner with the teachers, they need the same amount.
I think I disagree. As Joe probably remembers as an athletic director, I know he did lots and lots of things beyond what he thought an athletic director was going to do. I know I did. I do think that we should show some appreciation in some way, and I would leave that up to maybe our superintendent to come up with another solution. But a monetary salary, I'm not sure is a good thing for this situation.
Thank you.
I think this is a great idea in principle, but we started this meeting with Mr. Khan, who's looking down at himself, telling us that we have a $48 million deficit and we're going to start cutting programs. So yeah, $40,000 isn't very much, and if we pump it up to $7,500, $60,000 isn't going to break us. But guess what? We're breaking ourselves. At some point, we're going to have to draw the line because the expenses are going to keep going up. STIRS and PERS are going to keep going up, right, Mr. Khan? And also, we have 2 more raises that we've committed to for the next 2 years that are going to dump the millions. So that gap is going to get nothing but bigger. And, you know, I talked about this in December that we were deficit spending, and we said, guess what, we've been deficit spending for a while. And now Mr. Khan made it the very first item on today's meeting that we have this deficit and we're going to start cutting programs. Now, the 6 years I've been on the board, I haven't heard us talk about cutting programs. But, you know, I'd rather keep the program of summer school than do something else. But anyway, I guess that's priorities. But, you know, yeah, if we had an endless bank account and we could write checks all day long, I'm all for this. But, you know, the sport's going to have to say no at some point to some things. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. And do the administrators deserve it? Absolutely. You know, but am I terrified about this district? We talked last year that you didn't have to Google California school districts in trouble and not pull up a list of 30 school districts that were, you know, handing out layoff notices and we're in a lot of trouble. I don't want to be that district. I don't want to spend our money on debt and interest payments and loans and lawyers. I want to spend our money in the classroom.
Thank you, Mr. Freitas. All right, here's where we stand. Mr. Heberly, where do you stand on this?
I say 5.
5? I'll say 5. Joe?
Fine with 5.
Bonnie?
I say 7, but I just want it to happen.
Okay. So you'd be fine with 5?
It sounds like I better be.
Mr. Neely, this is a discussion item, so there's
This
no
is?
action tonight. We can bring it back.
That's consent.
You have guidance.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, board members, very much for that conversation. Spirited discussion, yeah. Hey, that's, you know what? No, honestly, guys, that's what I love about this board. You can have those spirited discussions and there's still all that respect. It doesn't happen all over the place. Okay, board advisory committee reports. No, I need a motion to adjourn according to the new rules.
I move to adjourn, sir.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Adjourn.
All night long.
All right.